Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name's April, and I'm the marketing supervisor here at Darebin Arts Speakeasy. I'll just pass on to my colleagues, Stella and Mark. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Pritchard. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the senior arts programmer, or one of the two senior arts programmers here at Darebin Council. I'm going to start by acknowledging that we're on Wurundjeri country. So Darebin sits on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung speaking people of the Kulin Nation. So I just want to pay my respects to their elders past and present and acknowledge that sovereignty of this place has never been ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'll hand over to Stella.
Hi, lovely to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's Stella. I'm a senior arts programmer in the team. My pronouns are she, her. I'm just going to give a bit of an overview of the session that we're about to jump into. We are recording this session and we'll be making the video playback available to anyone after the session. It'll be on our YouTube and embedded into our website. You can turn on captions. Welcome to Microsoft Teams. If you're new to this Teams platform, if you head up to the top bar and click on More, you can head to Audio Settings. Oh, no, sorry, you head to Language and Speech and click Turn on Live Captions, and that should come up. Feel free to message in the chat if you're having any difficulties. If you're watching the playback on YouTube, you can turn on live captions there as well. I'll run through quickly how we're going to present for you tonight. We're trying to keep things as conversational, as straightforward as possible, leaving plenty of time for your questions. So to start, we're going to talk through a little bit of the info that we've already captured in the Speakeasy guidelines and show you where you can find those on our website, and we'll also pop the link in the chat. We'll give an overview of the Darebin Arts Speakeasy program and speak a little bit about what we're looking for. We'll talk a little bit about our plans for reopening the Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre, which has been closed for maintenance, and a little bit more about our plans for 2025 and the postponed projects. And we'll share some information about that venue and our second venue, the Darebin Arts Centre. Then we'll talk through a little bit about the package that we offer shows in our program and do a little walkthrough of the application form itself, really speaking to the 3 criteria for applications. And then to wrap up, we'll touch on the process from here and leave plenty of time for you to ask questions. So feel free to hang on to your questions for then, or if you have them as we go along, drop them into the chat and we'll make sure we can answer them. I think I'll pop the guidelines in now.
And Beau, we should introduce you, Mr. Beau McCafferty.
Good evening. My name is Beau McCafferty, he, him, and I am the head of programming here at Darebin. But Mark and Stella will be driving the Teams session this evening.
Yes, we will. So I'll start with a bit of an overview of Speakeasy, what it is. So Darebin Arts Speakeasy is a program run by Darebin City Council. The program's been running for 12 years now, I want to say, Beau, and it's supporting independent theatre, dance, circus, live art. In this call out, we're looking for presentations. People who've applied to the program before might know that there's a presentation round and a development round that would usually happen at the same time. We're just doing presentations at the moment, and this is for presentations for the second half of next year. So the productions are all independent. So you bring your company, you produce it yourself, you make the team, make the art, pull it all together. We as the programmers are about supporting you, helping you out on the kind of marketing, publicity, the framing, the relationship with the venue, all that kind of stuff. We sort of contextualize the work in a way. The presentation program is pretty diverse. It's by open application every year, and we work with an independent panel to select the work. So it's a combination of the programmers who are here on this call, and then we work with independent artists to help us choose it, keep shaking up who's in there and what the kind of color and feel of the program is. So we're always guided by what the panel decides to put into the program each year. So that's a kind of rough overview of what it is. We are at the moment So if people who know the program know, we work across Darebin Arts Centre and Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre. So Northcote Town Hall has been closed this year and through some of last year as well because of some building works that have had to happen. So for people who know that, yes, we are working through it and we'll be reopening the venue by the end of the year, so that the Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre will reopen in October, and we'll have one production there. But the building works have meant that a couple of our shows have been delayed that were supposed to happen this year. So those shows have been moved into the first half of next year. They're all kind of locked in. So the program up until June is locked in. And then after that is what we're looking for now. So we're now looking for productions from July through to December. We're calculating there's 4 slots. They're not kind of specific date ranges that you've got to jump into. We're just looking at July to November as the period where we can program you into, and we can program you across either of those spaces, Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre or Darebin Arts Centre. So we're about to launch a couple of shows that are going to finish off our program for this year. Earlier in the year, you might have seen Peacemongers that happened at Darebin Arts Centre, or Future Proof, a physical theatre show. You might have seen Polite Mammals, which is a show for families. And I'm not forgetting anything, am I? Yes, that's it. And then so we'll be launching a couple more shows next Friday as part of Fringe, and after that. And then we've got our program for the first half of next year. Now we're looking for the second half. Have I rambled enough? Possibly. Stella, I might hand back to you to talk about the venues.
All right, so as we give a bit of an overview of this in the guidelines, but we are looking to program into 3 main spaces. We've got 2 venues at the Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre, the main hall and a room called Studio 1. And we have the theatre space at the Darebin Arts Centre. We're not looking for, Mark mentioned Peacemongers, which took place in the Grevillea room at Darebin Arts Centre early this year, but that's not a space we traditionally program into. It doesn't really have the tech specs for that. You can find details of the tech specs for all 3 of our venues on the website. They're all linked in the guidelines. But I can show you a few images now, just for anyone who's unfamiliar with our spaces. Bear with me. One moment. I've lost. There we go. So this is the Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre on High Street in Northcote. It's accessible by the tram stop right out the front, and there's a train station close by. This is the main hall of Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre with beautiful heritage features, Art Deco features. There's a rig in that space, and here's an image with the black drapes, which we sometimes use for shows, sometimes not. And we have a seating bank that sort of sits, a normal seating configuration is capacity of 100 with 2 rows on the floor. But we have had shows presented in the main hall with many different seating arrangements. So there's a lot of flexibility there. That's another angle of the seating bank. And this is the Studio 1 space, which is a slightly smaller space with an acoustic treatment. You can find all the specs for that space on their website. And we often use the same seating bank that we use in the main hall, trying to aim for a capacity of 100 with 2 rows on the floor. We do have a smaller seating bank we can use in this space, particularly if you want to explore any seating option that isn't end-on. We've used that smaller seating bank to sort of set up a traverse. Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility there. That's another angle. And this is the beautiful Darebin Arts Centre on Bell Street in Preston, and an image of the theatre space. It's a proscenium arch theatre that seats 385 or thereabouts. And there isn't as much flexibility in how you use this space.
So they're the spaces we have on offer. To talk through the production offer now, we give a pretty handsome package of support for our shows, but we do tailor that package depending on the show, how long you're going to run for, and what your needs might be. So I'll give you a kind of overview of the scale of packages that we offer, but we can always tailor something that'll work for what you're wanting to do. So we do offer a production fee. Each company gets, if you're doing a 2-week season, then you'll get $18,000 plus GST. And yes, that's a fee to basically pay for your production costs, or you do what you need to do with that fee. You don't need to give us a budget. You get 18K. For a 1-week season, we would offer 10K. We then take a box office split. So it's an 80-20 split, and that's 80% to Darebin. So we would take 80% of the box office income, and then you would take 20%. So we've tried different deals in the past, and basically the best way to go has been to give the artist as much cash as we can up front and take the risk off you in a way. So the risk sits more with us in terms of selling the tickets. But that's the kind of standard deal, is an 80-20 split, and 18K if you're doing a 2-week season, 10K if you're doing a 1-week season. And we can do variations on that. If you're doing a one-off event or something like that, then, we can always try something else. That's also calculated on our kind of standard ticket price, which tops at $38 for an adult ticket, $33 a concession. So yeah, around that. So that's the kind of ballpark of ticket fees. But if you're wanting to do something slightly different, then yeah, we're always up for that conversation. So yeah, production fee, box office split, I've talked those things through. Staffing, so we'll obviously cover all the box office and front of house staff, and we'll also cover some production support. So we'll give you, it's approximately 60 hours of tech support, and that sort of helps with your bump in and bump out. It doesn't cover an operator, so you should factor in your operator for the show. We'll have, there'll be a sort of supervising technician on site for every performance. So there'll always be someone from the venue who understands it technically and can help your operator out. So yeah, if something goes wrong on the night, there's always a runner, someone who can help sort of solve those things. But in terms of actually operating the show, that should be someone that you bring in. You can also use a Darebin staff, but you would have to pay a casual rate for that, and you can generally find someone cheaper than that. But yeah, we can cover staffing if you do need, and if you need to go above the 60 hours of tech support, then we can give you the rates for that as well. So that's the staffing. Space and equipment. So we will give you obviously the venue for free for presentation, but also for rehearsals as well. So the standard package is 4 weeks of rehearsal support, and that's at one of our venues, either Darebin Arts Centre or at Northcote Town Hall. 4 weeks is a standard package, but if you need to do a longer rehearsal or something more gradual, 2 days a week, that kind of thing, then you can always talk to us about that. We try and make it so that we cover as much as we can. If we've got the venues, then we'll try and get you into them, rather than, we don't want you to be using your fee to hire space elsewhere. Why do that when we've got rooms? So yeah, space we cover, equipment. So there's tech specs on the website, linked through the guidelines as well, so that yeah, all the lighting stock is on there and the equipment that's available. We do find that shows generally want to allocate something to a lighting hire as well, but you know your show, so have a look through those tech specs. Make sure you send them to your designer and just get them to have a look over it, or production team, whoever you've got on board at the moment, just so they can look through it and check that the venue is going to be right for you, because there is different equipment aligned to Northcote Town Hall's main hall and studio and Darebin Arts Centre. So have a good look through, make sure your team's had a look through when they're comfortable with the venue choice. So that's space and equipment. Rehearsal time, I talked that through. Yeah, 4 weeks is standard, but we can kind of, yeah, we'll support whatever you're wanting to do, really. And then marketing and publicity. So marketing and publicity is a shared project. So that's a collaboration between yourselves and us. April here is our marketing supervisor. So the programmers and the marketing supervisor will work with you to develop a marketing strategy, but we always want to hear your ideas and where you want to go. We put a bit of marketing spend behind it in terms of like a digital push and other things, kind of poster design. We'll cover the graphic design, that kind of thing. And we'll also can cover a marketing, like a hero image shoot, and also your production images as well. If we shoot your dress rehearsal or something, then we can do the production images too. And a publicist. So we work with the amazing Zilla and Brooke. who we've been working with all last year and this year and are a fantastic publicist. So in terms of the media outreach, getting reviewers in and getting some write-ups and kind of listings before the season, then they'll be our collaborator on that. So we'll cover that cost as well. So yeah, it's a pretty substantial package of support. It's different for every show. As a ballpark, I would say it's about $50,000 worth of cash and in kind. But yeah, as I say, different package for every show. But that's a kind of ballpark of what it is worth. Have I covered everything, Stella, in that?
Yes, I think so. We'll see if you have questions. I'm going to share my screen again and just give a bit of an overview of the key documents that we're working with here, including the application form. So this is our website and the landing page for the Speakeasy presentation application. We imagine some of you might have found your way to this session through this page, but it gives a bit of an overview with links to the guidelines and links to the Smarty Grants form, where here's the guidelines document that we're sort of speaking about, and here is what the form looks like in Smarty Grants. So it's relatively straightforward to jump in and fill one of these out. When it gives you a little bit of information before you jump into this page, but then when you're ready to apply, you can start to fill it out. This is the preview. I've got it open to the preview function. So you can see the whole form up close before you begin, and you can go back in and save as you go. The first page is just some general information, which isn't going to be assessed. This is just to give us a bit of an idea about who you are and who the team is that you're pulling together. We want the key contact of one person, and then we move into the project overview, which where you can flesh out the other people that you're working with. So we're interested in the lead artist names, but also the company or collective name if you're working as part of a company or collective, and a short description. I just wanted to flag this. This is sort of our internal purposes. We found it really helpful to have kind of a one-sentence description of a project, i.e. an ensemble dance work about artificial intelligence. We find that there are a lot of people who assess these applications, both ourselves as programmers and an independent panel, but we also share this information with our colleagues across production, presenter services, ticketing and marketing, and it's really helpful to kind of have that one sentence explainer as to the project that we're talking about, to make sure that that's being led by you, the artist, not us, and our interpretation of your show. Then there's a few other sections to fill in. They're not, some of them are compulsory and some aren't, but you can pop in. We would love to get a sense of the size of your team and who's attached to the project. You can let us know about the art form and your preferred season length here. And this is an indication of the cash payments that Mark spoke about earlier for a 1 week and a 2 week season. Know if your project can be presented if you do not secure any further funding from any other organisation in addition to Darebin support. We'd love to know if this is the Melbourne premiere of the work. That's not a deal breaker for us, which we'll chat about a bit at the end. I know that was someone's question in the chat. And we'd love to know your preferred presentation space between the three we mentioned earlier. I guess if you don't know a lot about the Northcote Town Hall and you're kind of confused about which of the two spaces you'd imagine your work in, feel free to tick both. Like we're never going to go ahead and program you into the venue without having one, if not many, conversations with you first, including opportunity for you to have a site visit and to talk to our production team. So don't feel like you need to sort of make up an answer here if you don't have a clear idea. I think if you are applying for a show on the theatre, in the theatre at the Darebin Arts Centre, then you kind of know a little bit about your show and you're really dreaming into that space, that much bigger space. So feel free to let us know that here. But in the past, some shows have come through where the artist has applied for one venue and it's ended up in a different venue. And then we're asking you to pick which of the 5 months in 2025 that you're open for presentations between. Feel free to pick as many as is relevant. And then I'm going to kick off. We've got 3 key criteria that these applications are assessed against. And these are the 3 sections that our assessment panel will be looking at. The first criteria is creative and cultural merit. So in this section, the assessment panel wants to know about the creative and cultural value of your project. The panel may consider the ways in which the project is original, compelling, imaginative and timely, is clearly articulated and rigorously thought out, demonstrates an awareness of the work's artistic and cultural context, or interrogates current community concerns and celebrations. So here we're really looking at, the idea that and we'd love to hear a little bit more about your vision for the work, why you want to make it, and why now. Why is 2025 the year that you want to share it with audiences? And we'd love to know a little bit more about the history of the work, the development history, what work has been done so far, what more needs to be done. And we'd love you to attach any supporting documentation you have. This is optional, but if you have something, we'd love to see it. So that could be anything from a script to a project treatment, documentation from any previous developments, anything you'd like to share to really flesh out any of the things you'd mentioned in the 2 questions above. So I think one thing to mention is that we're really interested in clear and concise language. We don't really need to hear any kind of art speak or lingo. So feel free to speak about your work as plainly as you wish. And yeah, happy to answer questions about that criteria down the track. I'll hand over to Mark for criteria 2, viability.
Yes. So criteria 2 is viability. So now that we've heard about the idea and a bit about the development history, where it's come from, we want to assess the viability of the project. Presentations. This is for work that has had some development and is now ready to go into production. So we need to see if it's ready to do that, really. So is it sufficiently developed and ready for a presentation in July to November 2025, knowing that we'll be wanting to talk production, marketing, everything before that, much before that. So here the aspects the panel might consider include does it have a skilled team with a demonstrated capacity to deliver the proposed projects? So we'll be looking at bios and the kind of history delivered before. Is it technically able to be delivered in the chosen venues? So we'll be having a look through how you describe the show in relation to our tech specs, so what production details you can offer that make us go, yep, that's a good fit for that space. If you pick the wrong space, then we will always kind of guide you to another space, but if there's something more appropriate. But we want to see if it's achievable within our venues and the kind of production support we can offer. Does it understand its target audiences? So usually this is a big kind of distinguisher of whether a show is kind of still in development and still working itself out versus whether it's ready to kind of meet an audience. Are you able to kind of talk about audience here? And demonstrate an ability to deliver the work in the time frame required, and if required, evidence of further support, so government, philanthropic and private. So if it's a big project, do you have other kind of stakeholders or support involved that are going to make this deliverable? If your application is contingent, if your project is contingent on you getting some other funding in order to be able to do it, that's fine. There's a tick box earlier about letting us know. Totally fine to do that. It's not a kind of deciding factor, but yeah, we are thinking about viability here. So yes, you can link through again to all the guidelines and the tech specs, production details. So here we just want you to describe the major elements of the production. Is there a car on stage? Is there an elephant? Do you need to flood something? Any kind of big design elements you're thinking about? Is it on a revolve? Are you hanging people from the roof? All of those kinds of things. So any big features that you know about the production that are going to be kind of essential to you delivering it. It's got to have this element. So what's physically going to be in the space? Are there any major technical elements we should be aware of? The next question is about audience and marketing. So this is a question that artists always find challenging, but we do want you to give it a go and think about who are your target audiences for this show. Who are you trying to reach? Who's interested in this work? Who's enjoyed your work in the past and who might enjoy this one? So what ideas do you have for reaching those audiences and getting them to come along? And what are the major talking points you'd like them to engage with? How do you want an audience to see and talk about your show? So, yep, there's room for 200 words to fill in there. And then any additional support. So just here, just talk us through what your show is likely to cost and where the funding is coming from. Are you engaging with other partners for cash or in-kind support for this next phase, and what support's confirmed or not confirmed? So we don't ask for a full budget. That is really your business. But here, if you want to give us a top line kind of breakdown, this is an $80,000 project, or this has already got, I've got a development here and some rehearsal support here, and it's just going to need 2 weeks rehearsal, and that'll be covered by what we've offered or whatever. Just kind of go as a breakdown, or I'm going to go for Creative Australia, I'm going to go for Creative Victoria funding, and that's confirmed, not confirmed, that kind of thing. So do just talk us through the top line budgets and requirements and any kind of practical things that we should know there. Yeah, and that's the viability question. I'll hand back to you, Stella, to talk about criteria 3.
Amazing. All right, so criteria 3, third and final criteria, is impact. Some of this preamble at the top kind of explains that our programming priorities are guided by Darebin City Council's 2041 community vision, which positions Darebin as a place that nurtures an equitable, vibrant and connected community, respects and supports First Nations people, valuing country, and commits to mitigating the climate emergency. So these really feed into our programming priorities, and underpinning this vision is the council strategic goals as outlined in the 21 to 25 council plan, which you can have a read of if you'd like to. But I guess the key takeaway from the council plan and how this is relevant to the Darebin Arts Speakeasy program is we're looking for works that align with at least one of Darebin's strategic goals. So the 5 goals that we've pulled out are: deepens Darebin's commitments to First Nations communities, helps to build an inclusive and empowered community, whatever that means for you, promotes Darebin as a centre for creative industry and the arts, increases access to our council services and assets by groups who are underrepresented, and ensures that Darebin is a leader in responding to the climate emergency. So I guess, yeah, there's some big picture things, and we'd love you to kind of pick as many of those goals as that resonate with you in relation to your project. And then I guess to talk about it more, we'd love you to help a panel assess the potential impact of your project through answering this question, which is discuss the impact your project would have for the community and your practice. So things that the panel will be considering here are your project's potential to offer audiences something original, unexpected and entertaining, to align meaningfully with the Darebin community vision, to make an original contribution to a cultural conversation, to push the artist or company's practice forward, to engage meaningfully with underrepresented parts of the community, and to contribute to the vitality and creativity of Darebin. So I guess it's worth reiterating that, we're not looking for, one size fits all, something that can agree heartily with every single one of those priorities. But I would really encourage you to kind of just sit back and think about which ones of those really come to the fore for you, and tell a story here in this section about the values that drive you and what you think the potential of your project is in this space. So yeah, it's a 300-word box here, and feel free to chat to us more if you if you're feeling like you're confused by some of that. We know some of the council speak.
It shouldn't be too onerous.
Yes.
Most artists could talk about how a work is pushing their project their practice forward, or making an original contribution to a cultural conversation. So we just ask you to frame out the project a bit in that term. You don't need to argue every point of worthiness. Just tell us why the work matters to you, or matters to the art, or matters to the community.
And then the final question here is about access and inclusion. We'd love to know what strategies you're putting into place to ensure the process and production is accessible and inclusive, I guess, from the start. So yeah, also worth noting that Speakeasy provides access services for every season, including but not limited to Auslan interpretation and some audio description, but relevant to each production and decided on in conversation with you.
I would say around that,
yeah,
just around
yeah,
that access and inclusion point, I would say if your project is dealing with anything kind of particularly sensitive or volatile, anything that's kind of, yeah, culturally sensitive or some like heavy themes, this is a good point to show that you've kind of done your work or how you're going to support your team or support your audience getting through it. We're totally open for anything. Darebin doesn't censor the work. We won't intrude on your content, but we do want to know that you're doing things safely for the artists, for the team, and for the audience as well. So that's a good point. Just kind of, yeah, drop some notes in there.
Yeah, great. The final section here is not accessible criteria, but we just love a little bit of information, demographic data about the number of artists working on the production, if anyone lives, studies or works in Darebin, and if anyone in your team has any access requirements that we should be aware of. And then there's a couple of demographic questions there. You can select as many as are relevant to your team. And this is just for our internal purposes. And then the last section is if you have any feedback from us about the form. We're constantly working to improve it and streamline it as much as possible. So if you, once you've submitted, if you do have any feedback you'd like to share, we'd love to hear it. I'm going to stop sharing. There you go. I didn't set it up, so I had a little picture of us in the corner. That was probably pretty boring. Sorry, everyone.
So the process from here, obviously applications are open now. They've been open for about 2 weeks now, I want to say, with a couple of weeks to go. So that will close on April. You're going to know off the top of your head. It's mid-August.
18th.
Sorry.
Sunday,
18th.
18th of August at
Thank
11:59
you.
p.m. Get it
11:59
in. Don't
p.m.
wait till 11:58. Don't wait till 11:30. I highly recommend you get it in as soon as possible by the
Yes,
18th of August.
you can draft your application in there, so you should be able to do a first pass and have it all cooking and beautiful and be able to review it. So yeah, apps are open now. If you need any support with your application, if you're struggling with the portal, if portals aren't for you, give us a call, drop us an email, and we can line up a chat. We can help you with any kind of issues you're having. Yep, so the apps are open now. We can give you advice, but can't write it for you. Apps will close on the 18th of August, and then our panel will meet about 2 weeks after that. So as I said, we work with an independent panel, so we'll bring about 3 or 4 panelists on to work with us to assess the applications. That's the first round of applications, so they'll review all of those, and then we will shortlist from there. So from there, we have a shortlisting process where we basically put the apps to our kind of venue team and production team, get them to look over it and just get their questions, insights, anything they can see about whether we can deliver all these projects. And so they're shortlisted, and we will then have some shortlisting interviews. So a number of applications will be chosen to be interviewed there. We'll put some questions to you in advance so that you can have a think if anything kind of technicals come up or any suggestions from the production team or anything like that. We can put those questions to you. There might be questions about audience or about the work itself. So we can, we'll send those to you in advance, and then there'll be a shortlist an interview meeting where we can just talk in a bit more detail. And from there, we then make some offers. So we'll put together a package of support and make an initial offer to you about when we could do the show and what we could offer you to do it. And then we can kind of back and forth about that, work out our key milestones. And then from there, we confirm that you're in the season and go to contracting. And then the idea is that we wouldn't launch until early next year. So there's still plenty of time to put together the actual marketing content and everything like that. So yeah, that's the rough plan. So we should be able to notify our successful applicants by I didn't put this up in front of me. Is it mid-September, Stella?
Yeah, 13th of September is when
We will let everyone know whether you're shortlisted or you haven't been successful. We will let you know by the 13th of September. Yes, what else am I going to talk about?
I guess the last point, you go.
Yeah, like our ability to provide feedback is limited, but reach out if you've got questions, then you're welcome to ask. But yes, yeah, that's what we do.
And I guess just addressing the question that's come in the chat about whether it will come around again for 2026. Yes, we'll be opening the call out for 2026, probably a little bit earlier next year than this year. And the application process, like at this stage, shouldn't change very drastically. So if you are unsuccessful in this round, but you're very welcome to reapply next year, and there'll definitely be you know, I'm sure a number of applicants that will contact and encourage to do so. And so if you're looking for any feedback, like we'll do as best as we can to give you, just to give you as much as we can. There are a couple of other ways you can engage with us. We have separated the call out for developments this year. Normally our presentation and development call out is one and the same, but this year we're opening our call out for developments in September. So watch this space, that'll go up in a couple of weeks now, really, and that will be open throughout Melbourne Fringe. It's a shorter application, and we'll be looking for to fill some development slots in 2025, right from the beginning of 2025, rather than limited to the second half. So again, that will be open for a few weeks, and you're welcome to chat to us about that. The hope is that we're in staggering the development and presentation callouts, we're like increasing the opportunity for an artist to be successful in getting a development through the Speakeasy program, and then to go on to apply for the following year's presentation program, and just making that that journey a little bit clearer. We'll also be, as Mark mentioned at the top, we'll be launching in November our 2025 Season 1 program, and at the same time we'll be launching a new community of practice framework that we're dreaming into the Northcote Town Hall Arts Centre, which will include a new Companies in Residence program, and there'll be some more information on all of that in November, but that will include multiple kind of opportunities for you to participate, to attend workshops and to share your work. So we're really keen to have a lot more conversations with artists in our venue once it opens back up after being closed for some time. So keep an eye out to all our channels in November for some kind of ideas of how you can participate, and come along to our shows, and you can always chat to us there. We have 3 productions for the second half of this year that will be launching next week, and I know we'll be around Melbourne Fringe a lot over those weeks, so please make a time to speak to any of us, but also come along to anything if you want to get a better sense of the Speakeasy program. I think that's that part.
Yeah.
Have I missed anything? Yeah, questions.
No, I might pick up on a couple of questions in the chat. Last year, as April said in the chat, we got about 50 applications to presentation. So it is fairly competitive. Out of those, I reckon we were able to select 8. We're generally finding we have a kind of a show that has ended up postponing from one year to the next, for whatever reason, be it our venue drama or be it them pursuing funding or a change in artist availability or that kind of thing. But there's often shows rolling over. We generally program 8 to 10 productions in a year. So over the calendar year of 2025, there'll be 8 to 10 shows, I believe. So if that gives you an idea, with this round, because of the postponed shows that we mentioned at the start, that are filling up the kind of first half of the year, we're just looking for 4 slots in this round. But if you are a near miss, if you're a 5th or a 6th, then we'll absolutely talk to you and at least encourage you to apply in the following year. So it's always good to be in the mix, good for the panel and us to be seeing what you're working on, even if we end up kind of encouraging you to apply for 2026. We try and do this call out at the similar time every year. It always varies for various reasons, but it's a pretty regular program and always open applications. So we would aim to do it around mid-April, as Beau has said in the chat, for the 2026 round. So that's that. There's other questions.
Funding.
Yeah, please put up your hand as well if you want to ask a question verbally as well. Question about extra funding. How important is it to have another potential source of funding for your work? That is up to you. If you need extra funding, you go for extra funding. It's not essential. If you're able to deliver the work just off we're offering you, then that's totally fine. It's really not a deal breaker either way. We generally find that we are the first investor in the production of a show. Shows usually have some development, but people don't generally have funding confirmed when they're applying to us for presentation, but we're then able to write you a good letter of support, attest to giving you roughly 50k of cash and in-kind support behind your projects. That generally puts you in fairly good stead for future rounds of funding, Creative Australia, philanthropic, whatever you want to go for. So we don't expect you to have any funding up in advance, and if you don't need it, don't go for it. And what would a coherent and realistic plan to attract funding consist of? I suppose, there's some pretty regular rounds that people go for. That was the wording. Sorry, it sounds a bit overspecific, but if you're saying I'm going to get $500,000 of funding, then we would want to understand how you're going to do that. But if you're going to say, look, I'm just going to go for Creative Australia and Creative Victoria, then that's a pretty reasonable plan for funding. We're sort of trying to gauge if things seem viable through that, but as long as you've kind of thought through, this is the amount of money I need and this is roughly how I would get it, or this is what I'll do if I don't get it, then that's enough for us. So if it makes sense to you, it'll make sense to us, if that makes sense. Other questions, does development round include the funding and in-kind support? Yes, it does. The standard offer we've run in previous years has been $2,000 as a stipend, and in-kind support would be 1 or 2 weeks of space, but we'll properly announce this program later on. So forgive us if we tweak that package at all, but the standard offer that we'll probably continue with would be 1 or 2 weeks of space, whatever you need, and which is usually worth about 3K in kind, and then we'd give you $2,000 cash as an artist fee. Next up, is Instagram or Facebook the best way to follow for updates? Both good. We're generally putting the similar content to both. I'm an Instagram girl, so I would say go Instagram or sign up to our mailing list. Much better. Get away from these mega platforms that are all run by the same guy. Sign up to our mailing list. You get much better content. E-news is best, as Beau has said. Applying the following year with the same project or a different project, that'll be up to you. We try and give you feedback, but the work is always the hardest thing to comment on, but yeah, it'll be up to you.
It's worth mentioning it'll be a different panel. Like every year we bring together a different panel of independent artists to assess, along with us as a team of programmers. So I guess there'll be a group of new people reading your application for the first time if you reapply next year for 2026.
We absolutely find that there's projects that are unsuccessful one year and then are hugely successful the next year. So it's not, definitely not the same voices assessing every time, and the conversation can go in different directions depending on how you pitch it, that kind of thing. Yeah, you're very, very welcome to submit again. Yeah. Other questions? Pop your hand up if you like, or drop them in the chat. What else usually comes up, Stella? Stephanie. We'll just unmute you.
Did I do?
There you are. If you want to unmute yourself, you should be able to speak. Stephanie Foster.
Hey. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So my question was just in relation to music-based projects. I know I got an email about this as well, but is there capacity for sort of performances, or does it have to be like a theatre work or an opera or a musical as opposed to just a show?
Yeah, that's great question. We do accept music-based works, so we presented with Of Frogs. Of Frogs, describe that project, Stella, in a nutshell.
It was a sort of percussion project with some sort of like physical theatre elements, some puppetry and light. Like I guess it was a music performance at its core, but with some design elements to really elevate the work and kind of a little bit of a it had a narrative of sorts, or like a bit of a linear, like an arc to the performance that sort of meant that we felt like it worked well within the context of the Speakeasy program and could kind of sustain a 2-week season. But it, at its heart, it was a 60-minute musical performance. In the same year, we presented Richard Franklin's "No More Sugar, No More Tea," which was kind of the staging of an opera. Like that kind of felt to me like a folk performance, but had a beautiful narrative thread throughout it, and again worked really well as a season.
Yeah, so we're usually wanting shows to present multiple performances, generally not often a one-off. We do occasionally, but if you would say this is a gig, if it's just a band playing on stage, then that's not usually a fit for Speakeasy. But if it's something that you would run for a couple of nights, even just over a week, then that would be something. So you're being considered next to theatre and dance. Live art, I say, is the kind of broad category that I would put a music-driven piece in. So Of Frogs that Stella was speaking to, that I would put in the live art category as a very broad umbrella. But yeah, you'd want to be thinking about multiple performances, not just a kind of one-off recital, if that makes sense. Mo, do you want to go next? We've just got to unmute you. How do I do that? There you go. You should be able to unmute yourself now. Sorry, Mo, I think you might need to unmute yourself there. You should be able to just click your microphone. Are you there? Mo, can you hear us? I think you've got your hand up for a question. We've unmuted you.
Maybe we can come back to Mo if that's okay.
Yeah, cool. Just pipe up whenever you're ready, Mo. Jen, you have a question in there. If we have premiered a show a few years ago, done some odd shows here and there, but want to remount this through this program, is that a realistic possibility? Absolutely. So we've presented lots of second productions of work, I would say. They've usually had what you might call a development season. It's often not a straight remount. So if you've already had a full run here, to do exactly the same work again doesn't often happen, but we're not opposed to it. Usually, so something like Bloomshed presented Paradise Lost, which they presented first at Butterfly Club, so a much smaller production, more intimate version. I would say that was a development season, but it was a public performance. And then they brought it to Northcote Town Hall and were able to argue how this is a kind of enhanced version of the show. And they sort of souped up to the design, filled the Northcote Town Hall and the main hall quite fully. So that was quite a nice trajectory and really satisfying for us. This year we presented Future Proof by Gravity Dolls. So that had actually had a season at the Arts Centre in the Fairfax, but they wanted to kind of continue the design, take that a bit further, and there were some things that they wanted to resolve that they hadn't resolved in the first season. So try and pitch it in that way, if that makes sense, that you're kind of going, yes, I've had all this growth and I know so much about the show now, and now I'm going to take it to the next level in this way. So yeah, we can absolutely remount shows. Just think about how is the investment of Darebin Council kind of adding to the value of the show and kind of continuing its life and souping it up, I suppose, letting you kind of resolve the work. I hope that makes sense. Other questions in the chat? Belinda, does the size of the audience for your work impact the fee that's offered? I have, e.g., I have one work that would be suitable for standard theatre presentation at approximately 100 seated. Another work is participatory performance for 15 or so. Yeah, great question. Yeah, we would, I guess we would talk about tailoring the package, but you tell us what you need and then we'll try and work it out. It's not a direct kind of one-to-one. If you're doing 15 audience instead of 100 audience, we're not just going to give you 15% of the fee. We will tailor something that looks reasonable. We've presented plenty of intimate works for much smaller audiences, so always up to a conversation about that. We just need to factor it into our kind of box office thinking for the year. We kind of rely on making a certain box office income across the seasons, so we just need to kind of do some horse trading for ourselves. But yeah, very open to more intimate experiences. We love them. But yeah, so both are totally viable within the program. Next up.
A question on whether there's an emphasis on family-friendly shows or room for challenging and controversial issues. Absolutely, as we mentioned earlier, we don't censor your work in any way. We're just keen to know, I guess, a little bit more about your desired audience that we spoke about in that criteria. Definitely family-friendly shows have come through the call out, and so have very challenging works with pretty intense subject matter. We're really keen to hear about how you're approaching that subject matter safely, and we'll work with you to make sure that our marketing is really clear and manages, I guess, just manages that delicate balance of remaining that it's still accessible and that it is that we're making it as safe as possible for audiences and providing them with all the information that they need. So that might be limited to, but not include, including but not limited to, sitting in on some of the rehearsals, really working out the show warnings with you, making sure that our colleagues from presenter services that, work as ushers and things across your season are really well briefed on the content of your work. It's a partnership, I guess, between us and you, and making sure that everyone feels really safe, including you as artists and audiences. But there's no subject matter too scary for us. So.
You might have seen Joel Bray's considerable sexual license that was on as part of Urine Boy a couple of years ago. Plenty of nudity and confronting moments in that show. We presented The Fence last year, which dealt with domestic violence, and we just had some great conversations with the artist about how they wanted to navigate that, how they wanted to support the audience. But there's no kind of censorship of content. Just because it's a council supported program doesn't mean coming with kid gloves. We will absolutely support you to make the work that needs to be made. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. Mo, yes, we just did our Anzac play recently in April, and since then I've organised a panel of historians and even an author who would like to discuss his book on the topic of our play. Can I add this information in the application? Yes, absolutely. So I would probably say put this under the viability category criteria. So when you're talking about audience engagement strategies, some of these kind of add-ons and satellite programming are really interesting. So yeah, I think they're great ways of thinking about audience engagement. So that all sounds really good. Does that cover that one?
Question from Kate about what industry roles or backgrounds to those assessing the applications have. So each panel is different, but will include at least 3 people from the programming team, along with at least 3 other independent artists that we hope to we don't invite people until after applications have closed in case anyone applies and then can no longer be considered. And we try to put together a panel that covers a range of art forms, including but not limited to dance, theatre, someone from with some kind of designer, you know, performers. Yeah, there's no art form. I guess we're interested in people that can speak to a diverse range of art forms too, either from their own practice or just as sort of artistic citizens, because we really want, it's not like we're asking if we have a assessor who's a dancer, they're not solely looking at the dance applications. Everyone is assessing each application against the 3 criteria. And so we're really interested in making sure our panel feels really confident across all art forms, has a deep understanding of the Speakeasy program. Maybe they've performed, they've had a work in it previously, and sort of know a bit more about how we work, and can kind of really speak to, you know, the industry right now and the conversations that are happening. So yeah, anyone that wears multiple hats is probably, you know, the sort of people that we'd be looking to bring together into the room.
Great. We just have about 5 minutes left. I'm just conscious of time for everyone. So we're happy to take more questions if there are any more. I first want to just acknowledge too, thank you so much for everybody taking your time out to come and hang out with us for an hour and have us talk about our application process. We're really looking forward to reading your application soon and having conversations with you. It's probably our favorite part of our roles is that we get to talk to you guys and work with you to put on new works to show to this community. So feel free to keep putting in more questions in the chat or raise your hand. You can always verbalize your questions as well. And
Yes.
yeah,
Oscar, do we speak? I think, Oscar, I think I skimmed over your question from before, which is a great one. If we submit something and it'd be better served by more development, will you let us know, recommend we apply for the development program? Absolutely. It is in our interest to help good work get to the stage. So yeah, if we think you've overshot by going straight for production, then we will absolutely encourage you to do that. So I think by applying for one, you can't go for the other. It's kind of why we separated them out a bit, because we would often get the question, am I development or presentation at the same time? And they are kind of very different modes. Yeah, that's totally fine. We'll let you know for sure if you should be applying for development instead. Charlotte, you've got your hand up there. If you just want to unmute.
Hi. If we have multiple shows that we were wanting to pitch for funding in different stages of development, say one that's had a previous development period that would be more for this current one, and then one that's in the writing stages that would be better for the next one, does applying for one exclude us from applying for the other, or is it I'm guessing it would be unlikely to get both, but what would be your recommendations for something like that?
Yeah, we generally try to, I guess, spread the opportunities out. If we're giving the same artists everything in all of our programs, then we'll get in trouble from you, the arts community. So we do try to avoid that. Yeah, totally up to you. The presentations are the big ticket opportunity, that is the larger amount of cash and in-kind support. So if you have a project that's going to be suitable for that, I'd probably be going there. The development program is only 2K, only 2K, and some in-kind support as well. But yeah, I'd be shooting for the presentation if you've got a project that's ready. But you know your work better than I do, so
you'll hear the outcome of the presentation application before the development application round opens, so that they don't overlap this year. So you'll know either way. But I think it's also worth mentioning that while we're trying to spread what we have around, we're also really keen to champion work from development all the way through to presentation. So if you are successful in our development round, we obviously would be really excited to see the work presented with us in future years. So yeah, I feel like that you might even look back at a program like Mark mentioned, the fence earlier, which we presented last year, and that had a development opportunity the year before. So there are, that's a great pathway through the Speakeasy program.
Not a guaranteed pathway. Doing the development program doesn't lock you into doing a presentation with us, but yeah, we love to see things kind of coming through those programs.
Yeah, we're really proud of the application. So at this stage, all programs that are presented as part of Speakeasy have applied with the form that we've talked through today.
Cool. Any other questions, or have we wrapped just on 7 o'clock? A tight hour. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
So the recording will be available on the Darebin Arts website as of sometime tomorrow. Just look out for that on the website. And yeah, that'll be available till applications close on the 18th of August. So feel free to replay it over and over and over again. Just visit us on the Darebin Arts website. Thanks again, everyone. Hope you found that very helpful. And thank you for your questions. Really helpful for us, so we know what you're looking for, and we can better our process to make your life easier. So thank you all, and have a wonderful night. We'll see you soon.